For 40, I wanted to discuss my most important principles, you know what I mean? My most important gems that I've gotten in 40 years of my life that have gotten me here. You know what I mean? I got my son on my cover. It's my grown man album right here.
Microphone check, 1 2. What is this? It's the 5'7" assassin in the podcast business. I am your host, Rohan Patra, the rap music plug at your service. Here we are again at the end of the rainbow. Few artists epitomize the word prolific quite like today's guest, Blu. Hailing from Los Angeles, the West Coast legend has truly done it all, delivering countless records that run the gamut from soulful boom bap to lo-fi to avant-garde, electronic hip-hop, and everything in between, both as a rapper and a producer as well. And in 2025, Blu is not letting up, expecting to drop another 3 records this year, the first of which is titled 40, that is fully produced by the great August Fanon. And if you think I pronounced that wrong, listen on because that does come up, and I'll be honest, I still don't 100% know if this is correct. But anyways, the album drops on April 18th, and Blu joins me today to discuss the making of what he dubs his Grown Man album, along with covering other key aspects of his legendary career, such as his appetite for diving into experimental, cutting-edge sounds, being bold with his artistry, his strong, long-lasting relationship with Exile, and much more. Blu is a legend, so listen to the episode. I don't really know what else I need to tell you. And as a reminder, if you're in Toronto on April 17th, Premrock and Friends will be performing at Basement 254 with some DJ support from yours truly. Ticket link is in the description of this episode, and without further ado, let's get into it. The Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV is the remedy to the I don't have anything good to listen to problem. Through in-depth artist interviews, album reviews, and general rap commentary on the best that the underground rap scene has to offer, this is your one-stop shop to knowing what to add to your queue, play next, or pop into your record player. Welcome to the show. Blu, how you doing today?
Chilling, man. Live in effect with my man Rohan holding it down. Rap music plug. Almost.
It's a bit of a tongue twister. Even sometimes I say it. I'm like the rap music plug pot. Like it's a lot of P's, a lot of P
Rap
sounds.
music plug podcast holding it
Yeah,
down.
but
You
you're the
know what I
rapper
mean?
though. You should be able to do this. I'm not. This is not my forte. So,
Come on.
but no, man, I'm really happy to have you on. Like, I've been listening to music like since basically since I started really seriously listening to hip hop, which is like I'm talking like I mean, I was listening to it in middle school, but like really starting to like go online and like start doing some like virtual crate digging, as I call it. Like that's like
Yeah.
2010, 2009, and I was already
How
pretty hip to you pretty quickly around that time, and because you were definitely
uh
like one of those like early recommended artists of like if you're trying to get into anything indie, anything that's outside of like the mainstream dudes that everybody heard, and fuck, like
crazy.
it's been a treat ever since. So really
Oh, that's
appreciate the
super
time.
dope, man. Super appreciate that, man. Yep. Good to feel good to be here, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I genuinely think this that you are one of the most prolific rappers of all time. Like just like full stop. And it specifically comes
Come
to like
on,
the
appreciate that.
diversity. Man, it's the
That's my
diversity in your
flex.
catalog.
Oh,
It,
I appreciate that, man.
like
That's what I aim for, you know?
Yeah, like you've rocked, arguably rocked like the most styles of any hip hop artist I can think of, and it's both as a rapper and also like a producer. And so, with this diverse catalog in mind, I did actually see this in a previous interview you did. You're a bit of a listener, is what I've heard. So,
Uh,
I'd like to understand what do you think are the most like, give me like top 3 or top 5 most essential. So not necessarily like rank your discography, but like, what do you think are like the most essential Blu releases that tell the best story of like your sound, your message as an artist? Like, what would be like 3 or 5 records that anybody getting to know you should hear?
oh man. That's like having me pick my favorite child, you know what I mean? Like, yo, this is a no, yes, it's always tough to rank my albums, man. But for someone just getting into my music, I would definitely say tap into Below the Heavens. The Blue and Exile catalog is a favorite amongst my fans. You know what I mean? The Miles album, um, Her Favorite Color, Good to Be Home, and Bad Neighbor. Yep,
Interesting.
yep.
Yeah, I mean, out of those, like I feel like when I would answer that, Below the Heavens, Miles, I think those would be there. Good to Be Home, like Good to Be Home personally, like something I want to talk about in another context a little later, but that's my favorite album of yours, and it's you and Bombay were just like something special together, like
Oh, appreciate that, man.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Shout out to Bombay, the bass god. Uh,
that it's actually just crazy because like even when you give those five records, there's like more like I guess you could say more of a polished like soulful boom bap S sound with Exile. Then you have like the really like lo-fi soul bliss shit, crazy shit that Bombay did. That doesn't even include though like all of the like LA beat scene type shit you did with like New York and Shafiq Hussein. Like it's
oh
unbelievable that
yeah.
even within that, it's still not really scratching the surface, to be
Come
honest.
on, come on. Shout out to Shafiq. Uh, Out of the Blue.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually think that record was super underrated because I feel like you did a really you really dove into that sound that people like I think were maybe slow to get into with New York because I just find it so fucking interesting. Like and how you can
Yeah,
rap
it
over
is.
those kind of beats. Those are insane beats to rap over.
Come on, those are the same beats, man. The South Rock Collective got some of the craziest production, you know what I mean? Let alone Shafiq, man. You know, the master teacher, you know. But yeah, man, it was definitely similar to New York and the vibe. You know, I try to make every album I do different, you know. Um, but those are two that can be compared to each other in my catalog for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and something I've always appreciated about your approach to creating is that you really respect the album format. Like there's nothing wrong to drop loosies and singles as many artists do, but personally, like the way I like to listen to music, I like to like dive into something and like spend the next 30 minutes or an hour into some
Yeah,
world and
yeah.
you just do that like with the
Oh hell
best of
yeah,
them,
man.
you know?
Word up. I appreciate that, man. Yeah. I love making albums, man. It's my favorite hobby, you know what I mean? My favorite, you know what I mean? It's a blessed career choice, you know what I'm saying? To make music, man, put out albums, you know. You know, I wish I could paint like this Basquiat behind me, you know what I mean? But I'm a rapper, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And,
That's
and
that's my form of expression of art, you know what I mean?
And you've collaborated with like a litany of different artists throughout the years, particularly other producers. So like, what qualities do you look for in a producer when considering them as like a collaborative partner that you can make something special with? What does your ear get tuned to?
Um, Chemistry, man. You know, like if you snap with somebody and you know they just ready to go and you ready to go, it could be timing as well. You know what I mean? And you guys just spark it off and make it happen. You know what I mean? Um, a lot of times, you know, it's like mainframe to rock. You know, those are my OGs right there. You know, Bombay. You know, those are like people I've known for years. You know, worked with for years. Um, me and Knots been working for years. You know, we got two albums out there, you know what I mean? It's been an honor to work with that dude. I think he's the best right now, you know what I mean? Last 5 years, you know what I mean? Hip hop, boom bap at its best. Shafiq is crazy. Exile is out of here. You know what I mean? I feel like I work with the best, you know what I'm saying, in my craft,
100%.
man. You know what I mean? You know, shout out to Soundtrack. You know, me and Soundtrack started cutting it up. You know, he's one of my favorites. You know, um, man, yes, you know, and of course, like Madlib, Alchemist. You know what I'm saying? honor to work with those dudes. You know what I'm saying? We got our MF Doom feature, man. That's huge. That's my biggest song. You know what I mean? Rest in peace, power and paradise to the King MF Doom. You know.
Chemistry is definitely the thing that like I always don't even as an outsider, I don't even understand how you're able to cultivate that with so many different people. And a lot of these people you mentioned, you've not just collaborated with like once on like one song or one album. A lot of these are repeats because you just seem to
Oh
be able
yeah,
to
yeah.
continue that. Like, I don't know how you're able to kind of, how are you able to like mold yourself? Like, do you actually, let me ask you this. Do you think you are the type of rapper that like enters the producer's world, or do you think like you often need the producer to like tailor themselves to what you do and kind of enter your world?
I feel like I'm blessed enough to work with my favorites, so it's more so like this is what I want my music to sound like. You know what I mean? These are the people that that I listen to that I admire already, you know, and to work with them, as let alone on a full album, it's huge honors. You know what I mean? Like these producers, when you work with a producer on a full album, you're getting his full attention. You know what I mean? You know, so it's like it's not like a single. You know, I mean, you get the full attention with a single for sure, but you're going in on an album. You know, so it's definitely a blessing. I remember Little Brother came out with like the Ninth Wonder produced. Talib Kweli had the High Tech album. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Murs did a Ninth Wonder album. You know, and me and Exile just sparked off my journey into working with one producer. You know, each album. You know,
And
I
do
think
you
I got
think,
like two albums with various production.
yeah, yeah, like do you think that that like one producer construct is like something that you think is particularly, you know, interesting or like allows you to do more because like the producer can really go into like fully flesh out a sound, whereas if you had like several producers, because you honestly are like one of the most, if not the most, like consistent when it comes to like taking one producer, we're locking in with them for one full project versus like the
Yeah,
Illmatic approach, of getting like multiple
true.
different producers.
For me, man, it's I like the consistency of an album. You know what I mean? Like Water for Chocolate sound like one producer. You know what I mean? That's very hard to accomplish, you know. But a Gangstar album, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? A Prince Paul produced Daylight album, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, those RZA produced albums, you know what I'm saying? Huge fan of that consistency and you know what I mean, going through the whole album. You know what I mean? It's like you said, it takes you to another place. You know what I mean? And it gives the producer space to flex, really flex. You know what I'm saying? And you know, it's the artist's job to. You know what I mean? The rapper's job to. You know, at that point, you can't have a producer just flexing on you like that. You know, got to do your job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's like I said, that's like my preferred way to go. I think it gives the listener like the most to kind of chew on and understand, both as a like a rapper and producer that way. Um, and I really like that makeup, especially as of late in your career, which is fascinating, right? Because like we're gonna get into this new album with August Fanon a little later, but it seems like you've actually been recording and releasing music even more often as you've been aging, at least in the last like 3, 4 years, especially. How do you maintain creative inspiration so consistently? Like
Man, I
just
credit it to that little guy behind you, man. On your, you know what I mean? That's my son right there, Red, you know what I mean? And since he been born, man, I've done probably 13 albums, you know what I mean?
how
He's
old is he?
he's 3 years old right now,
That's crazy. 13 in 3 years. Goddamn.
you know, just been cooking, man, for that little dude right there, you know what I'm saying?
Have you changed anything in your process? Like that's maybe allowed you to kind of like leverage whatever inspiration you have and actually record it, or has it just been you just feel like more invigorated
It's
by
the
this life change in your life?
it's the experience, you know what I mean, at this point, you know what I mean? So much experience I have in the game, it makes it much easier to make music, man, to write a 16 bar verse. You know, I remember it would take me weeks. Now, you know what I mean? You give me a good hour, you got a flamer, you know what I mean? You got a heat rock, you know? So it's more experience now, you know. It's knowing what I'm doing, you know, knowing what I'm aiming for, you know, and just, you know, it's been 20 years, you know, since I've been putting out records, you know what I mean? So that's all really, you know what I mean? Accumulating all that experience and then just turning it up, you know what I mean? Hitting that on switch, you know, going for gusto.
And do you ever worry that like you're potentially, because you're releasing so much music, do you ever worry that your listeners will start to get like saturated with your sound and might like not be able to take it all in? Or are you just, you feel like, if something you feel is good to be released, I just got to release it at that moment?
If I'm listening to it all the time, I feel like the people whose ear I've caught through my music, you know what I mean, will feel the same way, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I'm playing these records a lot, man. You know, I don't really listen to too much other than what I'm crafting at this point, you know. I was a bigger listener then. Now I'm in my creative mode, my producing mode, you know what I mean? From a, you know, executive, you know what I mean, side of it, you know.
That's interesting that you say you're not been like listening to as much music outside of like focusing on creating. Because something I've really appreciated about what I've noticed from you over the past, like, again, since basically so like the 2020s, especially, like you've really delivered some dope features and guest verses from some people that I didn't previously know, or you previously didn't have as much of a creative, artistic history with, but they're dope and they're up and coming, and you drop them something that's like really sick, and that just shows me you're
Uh,
still tapped in, man. Like you're still very
oh,
tapped
word,
in.
man. I appreciate that, man. My Soul Amazing um mixtape series we're going on. We just passed 500 features, you know what I mean?
Damn.
You know what I mean? The only person I could think with more features is like Too Short and Snoop, you know what I
Mm.
mean? You know, I think we out of here, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I
As
mean,
far
for
as like
real.
showing the love, man, you know what I mean? Getting down on the track, man, that's where I paint, you know?
And so like your discography is so vast and fascinating as we've established. And so before getting into this new record 40, I wanted to just quickly touch on a couple key like moments, touchstones of your career and just get your thoughts on it. So like your influence really knows no bounds. Like you got a shout out, which was really sick on that latest Vince Staples album that referenced how Below the Heavens really changed him, which was like super
Uh-huh.
sick to hear on a record like that. Shout out to Vince
Shout out to
Staples.
Vince. Yeah,
Yeah,
shout out Vince
love that
Staples, man.
guy.
That's mad love. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I feel he's out of here. You know what I mean?
Oh
So
yeah.
that's dope getting that love. You know what I mean?
And like one of the impactful aspects of your legacy is that you were one of the key pioneers of that lo-fi hip hop scene. Like you were very ahead of the time because many, and I'll include myself, I'll be honest, like when I first heard those records, like those early 2010s EPs, the Godly Barnes LP, Good to Be Home in particular, I wasn't fully able to wrap my arms around it, and some people weren't because it just was so, ahead of its time. But now a decade later, I think
Uh,
they've aged so well, and Good to Be Home, like
wow.
I said, is like legitimately my favorite album of yours. Going from one where I
Word.
was like, I don't know about
Hell
the
yeah.
sound, and like you were just very ahead of the curve when it came to that lo-fi sound, and I wonder like what was it about this style of music that you appreciated and like what you gravitated to so strongly? Like, is there a certain rawness or feel that you find is like special when the recording is of that quality?
um, it's really Dilla and Madlib. You know what I mean? Those that's who I would say were the masters of the lo-fi sound. You know what I mean? It's that and it's listening to demos. You know what I mean? Like Nas's "I'm a Villain." You know what I'm saying? Like songs that like people used to get on, man. Like hella dirty quality shit recorded live, you know what I mean? Like the Cold Crush shit, you know what I'm saying? Like lo-fi, man, some of the greatest sound recordings are in lo-fi, you know what I'm saying? So for me, if it hits like, you know, if it feels good, man, I let it go. You know what I mean?
There's like a I've really been getting into the Memphis hip hop scene as of late, and some of those the recording quality of some of those are just like insanely lo-fi, and there's something about it that's just
Come on.
so alive. It's so like yeah, it's just raw and like off the cuff. Um, it's really nothing like it. Like sometimes there's so
Yeah,
many times like I've heard from artists about like the I think it's called demoitis, right? Where like you record the demo, it's sick, and then when you like properly record it, whatever that means, it just doesn't. You feel like it's not as good as the original, and I think that's that
yeah,
idea. Like there's something in that spur, that initial moment that's like just special.
yeah, definitely, man. You know what I mean? Shout out to Pink Seafood. I think that fool's the lo-fi king right now. You
Oh
know what I
yeah,
mean? That fool
yeah,
mastered the lo-fi sound.
yeah. He's fucking a legend. Shout out to Sifu. He's been on a couple times. That guy's just like nothing but like creative genius shit to me.
Come on, come on.
Yeah. And as an aside, like if you are still in touch with Bombay, like please try to get that man back in the studio with you. I would
Oh,
love to
word
see
up.
anything more because like I just think the way he
Hell
captured
yeah.
all those sounds, like it's really not been done since. Yeah, like another wave that you were really early on embracing and kind of infusing in your music was that LA beat scene on records like New York in the early 2010s. And particularly at that time in your career where you had the huge success of Below the Heavens, I, in hindsight, it's so impressive and interesting how you resisted the urge to just like chase the bag and make a Below the Heavens 2, which like you so would have been in your rights to do. Instead, you wanted to just follow your heart, what was interesting you, and veered into this
Hmm.
lo-fi sound, but then also this like experimental glitch electronic sound on your major label debut. So like, why do you feel you have such an appetite for experimentation and taking bold creative risks versus like sticking to a formula?
Early on, I would say I was trying to make all the music I was a fan of. You know what I mean? I wanted something like everything that I listened to. I wanted my own version of, you know what I mean? Of everything that I fuck with. So I would I was listening to crazy shit, man. Fucking when you fucking with Flying Lotus, you listening to crazy shit. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, it was man, tons of shit. And I ended up working with a lot of these artists, you know what I mean? And you know, they trusted me. You know what I mean? It was taking a bold step, you know what I mean, for me to step out and make that like electronic album, man. It's just the love of the music.
Yeah,
You know,
like
what inspires me and ends up like I basically just try to create my own version of it. You know what I mean? A version that represents me, you know?
yeah, even listening to that album now, like New York, like that would be seen still to like if you dropped in 2025, it would still be like, damn, wow, this guy really
Word,
went there.
word.
Like that, it's just
Yeah.
insane. Track one, especially, like that's such a
Word.
batshit crazy beat. Like fuck, and
Come on,
your
come
shout
on.
Flying Lotus, man. Goddamn.
Yeah, Flying Lotus is crazy. Come
Yeah.
on.
It's just it's impressive how like you were able to see that, like have the vision to know that this could be something really exciting if fused into hip hop. Like it's special. Not many can see that, let alone
Yeah,
execute
yeah,
it.
for sure.
Last year, you and Exile delivered like another great record, adding to this like growing catalog of great music together as a duo. Why do you think you two have such a fruitful creative relationship, and why your connection with Exile so special that it's continuously delivered such great music over the years?
Man, straight up, like when I say I'm working with my favorites, like when I met Exile, he sounded like high tech. He sounded like Dilla. He sounded like Premier and P Rock all in one. Those were all my favorites. You know what I mean? You can hear some Marley Marl in there, like, you know what I mean? Catch him on a RZA day. You know what I'm saying? Like what? This fool is fucking crazy, man. It's a super honor to work with Exile, man. He has so many tools, you know what I mean? You know, and the most talented, you know what I'm saying, producer.
And
So it's me just like just trying to match his energy, trying to come with my best because I know he's gonna give his best, you know what I mean? So, you know, that's where our chemistry is, I think, you know. We always try to deliver our best work.
and something that I noticed too, like seeing you guys on tour just recently, it's very clear that you guys don't just like make good music together. Because like a lot of artists make good music together and then otherwise aren't really that close of friends or don't really get along, which is fine. You know, some people just make great art, but they're not, their normal personal lives don't really mesh. It really seems like you
Yeah,
guys get
yeah,
along really well and like feel like homies. Like, uh, how like is he really like truly you guys have that close friendship bond together?
bro. I've known Exile more than half my life.
Wow.
Like that fool is like an uncle. Now he's like a relative and shit.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was really cool seeing you guys tear up the stage there. Like the connection is so real. And I have a question from RMPP patron Jordan who's wondering about like how has that relationship between you evolved over time, like as over multiple decades now, as you've grown and as you've changed. How has it changed or evolved in any way?
I would just say, you know, taking it back to experience, we know it's easier to work together now. Like you know, it took us we did 75 songs for Below the Heavens. You know what I mean? We picked 15, you know what I'm saying? Like that was a learning process, you know what I'm saying? Now it's easier. We know how to work the angles better, you know, pause. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? But like, you know, it's easier to put it down, man. We know what, you know, our strengths are in each other. You know what I'm saying? 20 years of collaborating, you know, we feel like it's nothing, man. It's nothing, you
Yeah.
know.
I,
So easy to create.
I think like a record like Miles really shows how you guys do know the angles, if you will, because like the again, even on that one record, I mean, it is a double LP, so it gives you more space, but like you guys really made like every type of possible song you could create with one another on one record. Like you got
Ah,
like the
crazy.
harder, you know, grittier
Come
shit. You
on.
have this like really jazzy out there stuff. You have like the epic soul and like gospel type like really like spiritual tracks. Like it was just such a treat. It's always such a treat seeing the chemistry between like a really dope producer and a really fucking dope rapper like yourselves.
Oh man, hell yeah. That's love, man. Appreciate that.
And so, you know, speaking of great rappers, producers, let's talk about 40 now. So, even before we talk about this, I saw this tweet from Nature Sounds like maybe yesterday or the day before, and I'm pretty confused. How do you pronounce the producer of this record, 40? How do you pronounce his name?
August Fanon.
Is that, and that's confirmed to be true? Like, that's what he says?
That's that's what I was told.
That's
August Fanon.
crazy.
I was told I was saying it wrong, saying August Fanon, you know, but August Fanon is French, you know. That's what I
I
was
thought it was
told.
Fanon. Like,
I
I
hope
know it
I'm
wasn't
saying it
Fanon.
right.
Damn.
Yeah, Fanon, you
It's
know. I hope I'm
but
saying it
it's
right.
Fanon. It's Fanon.
Fanon, yeah.
Fanon. Okay. Wow. I had a whole ass conversation with him on the show. I kept saying Fanon. I feel like a dick
Oh,
now.
word. Oh
Ugh.
man. See, now I'm hoping I'm hoping I'm right.
I mean, I swear to, it's like I
Fanon.
feel like
How
I've
did you say
heard.
it? How did you say it?
I said
Fanon?
August Fanon.
Fanon.
So I know
Fanon.
it's not Fanon. You're right. It's definitely not
No,
Fanon.
I think it's Fanon because he
Okay.
said it was
Yeah.
French.
Cause like I've heard rappers say his name when he like, you know, shouted him out on a record and I thought they said Fanon, but like
Huh.
shit, that's such a mind fuck. But that's an aside. Okay, so 40 dropping April 18th, produced by August Fanon. And as we record
Yes.
this on today's March 29th, you blessed me with the singles for this record, so I was able to get a bit of a sneak peek, and I'm really intrigued to learn more. And so one of your main calling cards as an artist is that a Blu record always has like a focus when it comes to the theme, the lyrics, and the sound. So starting with that like thematic focus, what were some of the primary ideas that you were looking to drive through the lyrics on 40? What did you want to get across?
For 40, I wanted to discuss my most important like principles, you know what I mean? Like my most important like gems that I've gotten in 40 years of my life that have gotten me here. You know what I mean? Songs like Simple, keeping things simple, songs like Worthy, Happy, Bible, you know what I'm saying? Joy, knowledge, you know what I'm saying? Like just key things dance, you know what I mean? Like key things that help me persevere, you know what I mean? 40 years, you know what I'm saying?
And what were some of those like gems in particular that you wanted to share?
Yeah, yeah, like man, happiness, like I say, open your optics to optimism, you know what I mean? I say that was an EP I put out,
That's a dope project, by the way. I really like that one.
appreciate that, man. You know what I mean? That's below the heavens, inhale happy with your new imaginary friends, Like I've always been pushing the optimistic point of view. You know what I'm saying? That's like my main thing. So happy being my single, it made sense. Simple, Simple is the next single on the album. And it's just keeping things simple, man. BLU, I don't even got the E on it. You know what I mean? It's no, but like, you know, don't make things too complicated, man. You know what I mean? Like this album, August Fanon has so many production sides, you know what I mean? Like man, he can do all different types of styles of production. And he gave me three batches of about 40 beats in each batch when I first linked with him. You know what I mean? So I got like 120 beats, which is crazy. You know what I mean? That's what's up. Okay. I remember I got 500 from Madlib. It took me a whole year to go through 500 beats. You know what I mean?
That's
So I
crazy.
was like, damn, I got 120 right now from the homie. This is gonna take me a minute. You know what I'm saying? Man, this dude sends me 10 beats every 2 days.
I've heard about the August beat pack shit. It's like he's a
Oh man,
special level of fucking work, man.
yes. So he sends me three beat tapes, about 40 each. The first beat tape I put on was crazy. I heard the whole album right there. By the time I finished listening to the beat tape, I was like, this is a whole album. You know what I mean? And I didn't even listen to the other two.
Oh shit.
I hit him up. I said, yo, what's up with these right here? I dropped like 20. You know what I mean? We can get 20 of those on hold. You know what I'm saying? Now, these were all loops, no drums. You know what I mean? No layers. You know what I mean? So you're not putting drums over, you're not putting any extra instrumentation over it. You know what I mean? These are just straight loops. And they spoke so powerful. You know what I mean? Like I was like, it's the whole album right here. So I later, after crafting the album, I said, let me go through those other packs. I went through those other packs. They were completely different styles of production. The next one was all bangers with drums. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, snap. This ain't even matching. So I lucked out really hearing a full album in the first batch. You know what I mean? Because it was like a Donuts album, like Dilla's
Mm,
Donuts. You know what I mean? How that's like different from his normal style of
yeah.
production. You know what I mean? His drums are lower. You know what I mean? He's stretching samples out like crazy on this, like bleeding, letting the samples bleed, eating them up, whatever. But this was very soulful, like a deal of donuts. You know what I mean? Like something different from what he normally craft, not normally crafts, but other styles of his production. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Definitely like some of the bangers on Mock Hami's albums. You know what I'm saying? Like we went for the soul bag, bro. We went for the soul bag. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, like it's really funny when because you're working with August, like he feels in a lot of ways like a producer version of you in that he can give you that like bright, soulful, uplifting sound, which sounds like what we're getting on 40. He can give you
Uh-huh.
that grimy hard shit you did with Mock and others, and he can also give you like some crazy spaced out left field shit that he's done with like one of my favorite artists, Kinsey Babyface Perlis. If you haven't tapped into that, that's some like
Word.
alien shit. That's like yeah,
Okay, I gotta peep
experimental.
that.
That's like
I gotta
yeah,
peep
that's
that one.
I can
What is
send you some
that?
shit.
What is that?
Kinsey Babyface Perlis is the artist. They have like literally like six, seven whole albums together. Don't quote me on the number, but it's at least five. I think six, seven.
Word.
It's hard to find now because I think he's
Which
like
album do you recommend?
uh Bokor is like a classic. B God's a classic. And Platonic. I call it M Platonic. It's some other word I can't pronounce. The Perlis is very into like Haitian voodoo and
Uh-huh.
is a former vet. His approach to rap, like in a way, he's very much like a golden age rapper, but like nothing else about the sound is like that. So it's weird.
Uh,
Uh,
uh.
hey, I'll send you some shit right after this. It's
Word.
like actually like unbelievable. Um,
Hell yeah.
and Fanon, this is like
I'm
that's my favorite
sleeping then,
production
dude.
from him, man. Like it's unbelievable. But like yeah, no, he's just so prolific and such a bag, diverse bag. When you first kind of like heard of his production, like what was the thing about his production style that you felt the most inspired by or that you appreciated the most?
Well, when I met him, I asked him, can he send me any of his like most productive work? I mean, the most like what he's known for, work he's known for. He sent me
Mm,
about 7 or 8 albums that he's had huge hands in producing. You know what I mean? Like about 4 Makami albums. You know what I mean? Like so I don't know exactly which ones he produced on these albums, you know what I mean? But I'm listening to the whole tapes, getting the vibe of, you know what I'm saying, what he's producing, you know what I mean? And he's producing the majority of these tapes, you know what I'm
mm.
saying? And some joints are produced by other, other producers, you know what I'm saying? But he's doing the majority of it. That's why I'm getting the whole vibe. And then I was like, all right, he sent me the pack, and the first pack, man, I'm telling you, it was just that first pack of beats. It was all soul. You know what I mean? And I was like, I didn't have nowhere else to go. You know what I'm saying?
And that seemed like that was like the real focus for this one, especially given like the topics you're going with lyrically. It just makes perfect sense. It's like
Yeah,
very hearty, it's very wholesome, you know,
definitely.
knowledge. Yeah. And
I got my son on my cover. It's my grown man album right here. You know what I mean?
yeah, I was gonna ask, like, because it was that the significance of having your son on here is not lost on me. Like, this almost feels like as you're talking about, I want to give off, I want to deliver like all the gems that I've learned over the years. It's pretty, it doesn't feel like a coincidence that it almost feels like you could play this album for your son one day. I'm not putting those words into your mouth, but I'm
No,
just saying
yeah, yeah,
that almost feels like, hey,
definitely.
listen to this when you're older. Like these are some life lessons. That's how I get a feeling
Yes.
from this.
That is the total vibe of the album, man. You know what I mean? Putting my son on my cover was like showing where I'm at the time, you know what I mean? Like what's important to me in life.
And like when we look at the track list here, something else notable here is that there's over 10 tracks. Every single one of them has at least two features on it. So like what was the thinking behind making this album such a collaborative heavy endeavor?
Um, this was like a birthday party. This album is a birthday party. You know what I mean? And it's like a birthday cipher. You know what I'm saying? The DJ is just throwing on different vibes, and everybody's catching wreck with me. You know what I mean? Celebrating my birthday. You know what I mean? Celebrating 40 years of life. So we got the whole posse. Everybody came out. You know what I'm saying? Mickey Fax, Cassius King, Science, my boy Scene. My boy Scene is back in the place. You know what I mean? Chester Watson stepped out for me. Novelist, Charles Hamilton. We finally got one in. You know what I mean? This is our second jam. You know, me and Coda been cooking. You know what I'm saying? Rap Ferreira. It's the whole posse, bro. You know what I'm saying? This is my second joint with Rap Ferreira. You know what I mean? He's one of my favorite up and coming artists, easily, hands down. You know what I mean? So it's an honor to work with dude. Big brother, homeboy Sandman. You know, the big homie Propaganda. You know, Asheroth, the wise one coming through.
That
You
was
know what I'm
interesting seeing
saying?
Asher Roth, man. I haven't heard much from him recently, but I know he's been recently starting to get kind of more active. And I was like, he popped off when I was like middle school, early high school. So like some of that
Uh,
early music definitely was really popular where I was from. So it's nice to see him on this record. I'm excited to hear what that sounds like.
yep, yep. Yeah, he tore it up, man. He's on one of my favorite albums. I mean, songs on the album, Human. And I got the homies, Cassius King, Fashawn, Choosy, you know what I'm saying? The Dirty Science crew right there, you know what I mean? Can't move without my brothers. And yeah, it's just, full party, full house.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm really excited for this record. As also, I'm excited. I think when we were at the Toronto show, you mentioned that you have a couple other records dropping this year. Is there anything you can tell listeners more about those?
Um, I'll say we're gonna go one at a time for now. You know what I mean? I got a surprise album coming up next that you know what I mean? We dropped four albums last year. We try to drop three this year. That's what I'll say. You know what I mean? And 40 will be the first one. You know,
Fire.
um, Exile's trying to make it four albums this year. So we'll
Okay.
see. You
Okay.
know what I mean?
Okay. I'm
We'll
into
see.
that. And like I find it noteworthy too, like when we look at your last your future records. I saw in a past interview how you were like you were considering retiring from rap around 2015, I think, and specifically to focus on producing and DJing, but some unfortunate circumstances happened where it kind of shift your plans. And when I
Hmm.
learned this about you, I found that fascinating because as of late, you've actually been mostly exclusively rapping and working with other producers when it comes to the beats. But you've been a
Right.
very talented and successful beat maker yourself. So I wonder, like, are should listeners expect to hear more self-produced Blue records from you in the future, or are you more trying to just focus on being a rapper right now?
Man, I haven't made a beat since 2015 when my studio was robbed. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I just stopped producing, man. That was my main focus, and I was just lucky to be sitting on so much production, unreleased production that I've been dropping albums every other year with my production produced by me. You know what I mean? Still without having to produce a beat in 10 years. You know what I mean? And shout out to Bryson the Alien, just dropped the album in December called In Space on my beats. About 2 years ago, John Robinson dropped the album called King JR, produced by me. You know what I'm saying? We just been cooking, man. About a year before that, I produced an EP for JB out of Oklahoma. I mean out of Kansas City. You know what I'm saying? That dude is crazy, crazy ill. He had Havoc produce an EP, and then he had me do an EP. I was like, oh man, you crazy
That's crazy.
dog. You know what I mean? But
That's crazy. Do you think you're
yeah,
gonna ever go back to actually trying to make new beats, or it's just not the right time right now?
man, I felt like God was telling me to rap. You know what I mean? Because I was planning on retiring, like you said,
Hmm.
and DJing and producing was going to be my new focus. And my equipment was taken from me, like 10 years of investing a whole studio, you know what I mean? You know, and so it was like I couldn't bounce back from that like easily, you know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
I had to really see what I had left to build with, you know what I mean? And I had raps, man. You know what I mean? Raps was right there in my corner, like, yo, you know. And so I just got back on my pen game. You know, it took me a while, man. For a while, I couldn't even write. I was sitting on so much music, I was able to keep releasing stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't write for a while, So the Miles album was the album that got me back to form. You know what I mean? Exile wanted me to focus on what was important to me. You know what I mean? Aside from just like making dope music or battle shit or you know what I mean, LA shit or you know what I'm saying? Like X was like, yo, like we did a trap album. He was like, man, fuck that trap album, dog. You know what I mean? Like, it was like that's not the balance, you know. He was like, you need to focus on what's important to you. So that album helped me really like find find my purpose with the pen. You know what I mean? Again, you know, and put me back on my path. And since then, and then my son was born shortly after. I'm sitting on 10 unreleased albums, right now. You know what I
Are
mean?
those actually going to be dropping at some point, or are they like unreleased and you never
Well,
know?
40 is the 10th one, you know what I mean? And then I got nine left, you know what I'm
Dope.
saying? And I'm planning on retiring after that, man. You know what I mean? Here I go again. Hopefully I don't get struck by some shit like, yo, you you gotta rap more than that, dog. You know,
Yo,
but
whatever
that would
divine
be 30
intervention
albums.
happens, I just hope it's not as tragic as that. That's all I'll
Oh
say.
man, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm at 20 albums now. 40 will be my 21st album. You know what I mean? So I'm marching towards my last 30,
That's
you know.
crazy. I mean, I think as a selfish listener, I'm just happy you're still making music. I'm happy more than anything you're healthy and you at least were safe from that incident. And I'm glad you got the zest for kind of rap again and writing because you're so fucking incredible at it. And it's just a real honor to have you on the show. Like you're a real legend. And I
I
genuinely
appreciate
think
that,
like
man.
you're one of the best to ever do it. And I appreciate you coming on the show, showing love to the
Come on, man.
RMPP. Man, means a lot. Means a lot to have you here.
Good looks on holding me down, man. I appreciate it. You know what I mean? Let me get a platform to share love about the new album. Make sure y'all go check out 40, man. You know what I mean? That grown man shit. Perfect for a little house party, family gathering. You know what I'm saying? Some feel good music for the soul. Peace.
Peace. All right,
Boom,
that
boom.
is. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rap Music Plug podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to not only support the show, but join the fastest growing community of like minded indie rap fans, go to patreon.com, search for the Rap Music Plug podcast, and become a patron. You will gain access to an exclusive patron only Discord that me and 70 plus people engage with on the regular, as well as other patron only benefits such as bonus episodes, album recommendation reviews, early access to regular episodes, and much more. So if you have any questions about any of the Patreon stuff or just want to keep tabs on the show, interact with me on rap music and all the great stuff that we can talk about, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at rapmusicplugpod or shoot me an email at qlctv.podcast@gmail.com. You can also rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify as well. But that's enough self-promotion for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace.